Hey everybody, welcome back. So the idea of Sigourney Weaver coming back to the Alien franchise, I have to say, is a very exciting one. What I'm going to talk about later in this video is whether this is a good thing, a bad thing, or better yet, which Ripley it's going to be. But what I'm going to do first is, just for a little context, I'm going to react to this video where Sigourney Weaver basically talked about this a few days ago with Josh Horowitz at the New York Comic Con, and we'll talk about what she said and what this means moving forward. So let's take a look.
For you, is the door absolutely 1,000% closed on ever playing Ripley in any capacity again? I mean, since Neil's close call, have there been any discussions with Jim or Ridley or anybody else?
You know, Walter Hill is a very good friend of mine, and he wrote 50.
Now, Walter Hill is the producer on the original Alien movies, and he's been an executive producer on the Alien movies moving forward, more in a strictly advisory role. But he's one of the people, along with David Giler and the original writer Ronald Shusett, for really starting the Alien franchise. So it's amazing that he's actually still involved all these years later, but anyway.
50 pages of where Ripley would be now, and they are quite extraordinary. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but I have had a meeting with Fox, Disney, or whoever it is now. You know, I said.
Even Sigourney Weaver doesn't really know
except for Neil,
whether it's Disney or Fox anymore.
Felt the need. I was always like, let her rest, you know, let her recover.
Yeah.
But what Walter has written is so, first of all, seems so true to me. And it's very much about the society that would incarcerate someone who has tried to help mankind, but she's a problem to them.
The fact that she's talking so much about the plot in this interview makes me think that she's very positive that this movie is going to be made. You know, because usually they're under NDA agreements not to even speak a word of these things. But yeah, the fact that she's actually saying this on stage in front of people means that Disney, Fox, whatever, are okay with it, and they're trying to gauge interest. So I think that's partly the reason why she's been allowed to speak like this. But anyway, let's continue.
So she's sort of tucked away. And anyway, I think it's a very strong first 50 pages, and I'm thinking about, you know, working with Walter to see what the rest of the story would be.
Now, Walter Hill, of course, is a very good director as well. He's made some great action movies in the 80s, like Red Heat, The Warriors, and the 48 Hours movies. So it's always surprised me that he never actually got to direct an Alien movie. You'd think it would be a slam dunk, you know what I mean? So anyway.
Would not be running around air shafts. It would be...
You've done your time.
Yeah, it would be a very different kind of alien with a really good script. Scary.
She looks really good, doesn't she? I mean, she's, what, 75, 76? I absolutely think that she could still kick ass, you know?
Of course the alien does show up. Inevitable.
Of course.
But I love what he's done with the character. He really gets her strength and her anger and her humor, and it's very hard to write.
You don't necessarily think of humor when you think of Ellen Ripley, because she's a very tortured individual. But then the fact that she's talking about the humor makes me think that she's talking about the clone Ripley from Alien Resurrection, which really did have a dark sense of humor, but more on that in a minute.
It's surprisingly hard to write Ripley. Everybody makes you sound like a gym teacher. All right, people, let's do this, let's do that. It's you know, you can't, but Walter has it. He has the touch.
You have to remember, she goes up on the line.
She said that before in other interviews.
Yeah, that's Ripley. We all approve of this idea, safe to say.
Yep.
Thank you, that's encouraging.
So yeah, that is encouraging. And most purist fans of the Alien franchise would tell you that there really hasn't been a good Alien movie since 1986, with James Cameron's Aliens, my favorite movie of all time, by the way. Since 1997, we've had nothing but prequels. But really, the heart of the Alien franchise is Ellen Ripley. Now, it really helped that the original movies, Alien and Aliens, were stone cold classics. They were very well made, created an iconic monster. A large part of what made those movies memorable was Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. Now, I would put Ellen Ripley up there with my favorite movie characters of all time, like James Bond, Indiana Jones, Han Solo. Ellen Ripley is up there. And the interesting thing is, especially for a woman during the 80s and 90s, that's not an insignificant achievement. I mean, I know these days we talk so much about girl bosses, that it's such a trope, it's such a tired trope in movies and television, that Hollywood's really trying to force girl bosses and really tough female characters, really, and that just means making them more masculine and making male characters more feminine. But no, the fact is, Ellen Ripley, as played by Sigourney Weaver, she made that character iconic. She had that rare quality which is so missing from Hollywood these days. She was just a movie star, terrific actress who's great in everything she's in. And it was really lightning in the bottle that she got cast in that role. And it's interesting because she's a very tall person, and it's hard to imagine her being intimidated. But despite her stature, Sigourney Weaver was great at playing Ellen Ripley as someone who was terrified, but she was also very, very strong-willed. In the original Alien, she was a nobody. No one had ever heard of Sigourney Weaver, but she was the last person standing. And even in Aliens, when she's surrounded by all these macho Marines, she, along with Hicks, takes command after the initial slaughter, but it never felt forced. Now, it helped that the writing was really good, but Sigourney Weaver really made that seem effortless. It never felt forced. That's part of why she's such a great character. If Ellen Ripley is to return, which Ripley would it be? Because, spoiler alert, at the end of Alien³ Ellen Ripley dies. Temporarily at least, because a few years later they made Alien Resurrection, which introduced a clone Ellen Ripley, with alien DNA spliced in there. And it's interesting how Sigourney Weaver talks about Ripley's sense of humor, because the original Ellen Ripley in the first 3 movies, she wasn't exactly a comedian, but Ellen Ripley in Alien Resurrection, the clone Ellen Ripley, she had a very dark sense of humor. So that's one thing that she said in that interview makes me think that we're finally going to move forward past Alien Resurrection. Because let's face it, it's been 28 years since Alien Resurrection. And since that time, the Alien franchise has only given us prequels after prequels after prequels. We had Prometheus and Covenant, which were prequels to the original Alien. And of course, recently we had Romulus, which was a prequel to those prequels. And we have Alien Earth, which is a prequel to that prequel. So the Alien franchise suffers from the same problems that Star Wars and Star Trek do these days. They just keep going backward. They keep jumping back and forth along the timeline. And it's really frustrated me, the fact that they keep doing these prequels. Look at Alien Earth, for example. They have aliens on Earth, which is ridiculous to have that set before the original Alien. It just makes Ripley's achievements in Alien devalued. Because during those movies, she's trying to stop that alien from reaching Earth. I just wonder why they can't move past Alien Resurrection, because at the end of that movie, clone Ripley and her companion Call are on a ship, they've defeated the alien, and they're coming to an Earth that they don't know about. And the way that movie ended was with a kind of optimism that they didn't know what was going to happen next. And that's an opportunity that the following movies squandered. So I really hope that if they are going forward with this, that if they are bringing Ellen Ripley back, that it has to be the clone Ripley. Now, for those of you who don't know, a few years ago, about 10 years ago now, Neil Blomkamp, the director of District 9 and Elysium, was going to make an Aliens movie, but it was going to be an Aliens sequel. It was essentially going to be Aliens 2, but for one reason or another, it never got made. Because at the time, Ridley Scott was coming back to the Alien franchise and he wanted to do a prequel, which was Prometheus. So it's understandable that Fox went with Ridley Scott's vision rather than Neil Blomkamp's vision. Now, Neil Blomkamp's vision was to ignore the events of Alien³ and have it be a direct sequel to Aliens. Ellen Ripley would be with Hicks, she'd be married to him or whatever, it would have the aliens finally coming to Earth. And Neil Blomkamp even released concept art, which is still widely available online, because he felt that this movie was never going to get made. That would have been interesting, but I think that if a franchise starts ignoring its own lore, that's a sign of trouble. You look at the Terminator franchise and the Highlander franchise, and when they start releasing movies that ignores movies that come before it, it's just confusing and it's just a mess. And I know at the time Alien³ and Alien Resurrection were controversial movies, but I think time has been kind to them. Particularly the assembly cut of Alien³ is a vast improvement on the theatrical cut that was released. And especially when you consider the crap that's being made today, like Alien Romulus, which was basically a rehash of the original movies, and Alien Earth, which is just dog crap. Alien Resurrection and Alien³ are terrific films. And again, part of the reason for that is Sigourney Weaver's terrific performance as Ripley. Both versions. So the question remains, what timeline are they going to go in? And if they do bring Ripley back, which Ripley is it going to be? Are they going to dust off Neil Blomkamp's script and make an Aliens 2? Or is it going to be about clone Ripley? My preference would be to just finally move forward. You just have to acknowledge that those movies happened, regardless of their quality. Have Sigourney Weaver play clone Ripley at the age she is now. Now, of course, Sigourney Weaver isn't young anymore. She's 76 or 75, whatever. But she's still a great actress. Obviously, she's not going to be as physical as she was in the original movies. And I feel what they really want to do is bring in a new set of characters, finally move the franchise forward. And one way of doing that is doing basically what they did with Star Wars. Bring the original heroes back. So in this case, bring back Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. Probably not as the main star, but as an important character. Introduce a new young cast and bring back the alien and have Ripley be in an advisory role. I don't think that they'll make her the main focus of the movie because of course Disney will be thinking about the franchise moving forward and using Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley will be the key to that. Now it's interesting that Sigourney Weaver revealed so much in that interview about Ripley being ostracized from society and being seen as a freak. Because she's still clone Ripley, she still has alien DNA. And if the alien threat does rise up again, she could be seen as an asset. Now, as I said earlier, the fact that she went on stage and talked about this means that this movie is very likely going to happen. That Disney okayed this just to gauge the audience interest. And as you can see, that the interest is there. It could bring a lot of people back to the franchise, as long as they don't mess it up like they did Star Wars. But time will tell. So anyway, what do you think? Do you think Sigourney Weaver should come back to the Alien franchise? Do you think that she should come back as the original Ellen Ripley? Disregard the continuity of Alien 3 and 4? Or should it be clone Ripley from Alien Resurrection? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Share this video out there. And I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.